We have our first couple all-conference ACC teams out for football season. We have hot takes. Today's episode, Locked on Wolfpack.
You are Locked on Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Back into another episode of Locked on Wolfpack. Thank you for making Locked on Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. As always, I'm Grayson Boone. This is Kenton Gibbs. And Kenton, we have some preseason ACC football teams to digest. It's preseason team season, if you will. We're going to see a lot more of these come out as the summer wages on. But this is kind of our first taste of some preseason, I guess, honors, you could call it. Because, I mean, once the season starts, they don't mean a whole lot. But we noticed some potential snubs that we're going to get into in just a second. But this, of course, is all coming from Athlon Sports. They released an article for all the Power 5 conferences today here on Monday. You're listening on Tuesday. But we have some things to discuss here. So, first team offense, there were no NC State Wolfpack players on there. I'm not necessarily surprised by this. Kenton, I know you said you weren't necessarily either. But this is where the hot takes are going to come in handy as we get through this into the second segment. However, first team defense, we've spotted a Peyton Wilson and an Aiden White. Very appropriately deserved. I know, Kenton, you tweeted just the other day, according to On3, Aiden White is the number one ranked corner in the ACC. How do you feel about, them nailing these two guys here in the first team for this particular article?
Aiden White has ball skills that are Dave Emerson-esque. However, he doesn't take the risk. That is insane to think about. That is because when you think back to Dave Emerson and what he did well, many Wolfpack fans will remember him fondly. It was that he would bait up quarterbacks and find ways to break on the ball like crazy. But the problem with baiting is sometimes you can't get back to where you're actually supposed to be in doing so. And he left a little bit to be desired in man coverage, but that is no disrespect to Dave. That man played in the NFL for years for a reason. Was a starter in the NFL for a reason. Aiden White has all of that. I would say a little less length, a little less athleticism, but the ball skills are there. He's always where he has to be, and he always finds a way to make not just a play on the ball, the play on the ball, to take that thing back the other way. He's a phenomenal athlete, superstar. He deserves every bit of love that he's getting. And Peyton Wilson, baby, if I could give you my shoulders, I would. I promise you. I promise you I would, right? Like, I don't even want your Achilles in exchange. Just take my shoulders because, man, I'm telling you, when Peyton is right, when he is healthy, I don't think, and I mean this with every bit of my heart and soul, there's not a better backer in the country when he's right in terms of his health. He flies around at 1,000,000 miles per hour. He plays the game with reckless abandon, but he's rarely ever out of position. And even when he is, at times he has the type of athleticism that helps you make up for it. And the play against Syracuse, which many people will never forget, is why, right? Before the fourth down, what was it? Did their quarterback spike it on fourth down? Or
yes.
Was it? Yeah, before the fourth down spike, the man drops into the middle hole about 10 yards deep. And he's just kind of waiting there. He's looking. He's looking for work, which every good defender does in zone coverage. He's looking for work, keeping his feet active. And he just starts creeping a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage, a little bit closer. Next thing you know, the man has a sack. Now, I don't know how many of y'all know this, but if you're playing a middle hold in the defense, you're not supposed to be able to also get a sack on that same play, regardless of how long it runs. That is just a smidge of just a a slight little free sample. You know the ones they got at Costco on the little the toothpicks. That's just that of how good Peyton Wilson is when he's healthy.
Yeah, of course. We've talked about it on here before in Peyton Wilson's decision to come back for this last year of eligibility at NC State and how it is doing us a humongous solid because
absolutely,
he has shown quite a bit of tape already that likely would have made him some NFL money somewhere at some point. But I fully understand the decision to come back and play another healthy year, get that experience under his belt even more so. But again, yes, this first team nomination, it is going to hinge on his health, as he has had quite a bit of struggle staying on the field at times throughout his college career. But like you mentioned, if he's able to stay on the field throughout this whole season, you can look at the talent that Clemson has at linebacker. If you look at Peyton Wilson and it's all systems go, we could be talking ACC DPOY, because that is the talent that a Peyton Wilson possesses here at linebacker. Of course, he lost his Isaiah Moore next to him. He lost his Drake Thomas next to him. But if there's anyone on this defense that's going to step up and show out, it's going to be a healthy Peyton Wilson. So, of course, these first two first-team defenses, I think, are very well warranted. As the list kind of waned on, we got a third-team defensive nomination in Davin Vann. I know, Kenton, you have a hot take on Davin. That's going to come here in the second segment, so please stick around for that. Third-team specialist as a kick returner, we have Julian Gray. Very excited to see what he does this year. There's a whole lot of buzz being generated around Julian last fall camp, so I'm very interested to see how he's implemented into this new Robert and I offense. Fourth team offensive nominations were both offensive linemen, Timothy McKay and Dylan McMahon. I'm going to be interested to see how they get to work on the offensive line under their new coach in Coach Touche. A lot to be desired this year out of the offensive line unit. So
especially when Grant Gibson went down,
they
looked serviceable.
Grant Gibson to anchor us, yes,
exactly. They looked serviceable, maybe even good at times when Grant Gibson was in. The minute he went down, it was like, what are we doing out here? Do we have guys on scholarship that are playing offensive line today? Because it was, rough. It was
Swiss cheese offensive line.
It wasn't pretty. It objectively wasn't pretty. But there's another hot take to be had about the offensive line as well. And I think that this one may come as a surprise to some people. So stick around for that as well. But yeah, I'm going to tell you this. We've talked about this before, and I'm going to talk about it today. Historically speaking, when NC State is picked lowly, when nobody believes in us, when Virginia Tech has as many, if not more players on and all these all-conference teams than us, that's when we perform our best. That's when we perform our best. When everybody's saying, oh, your quarterback stinks, you got one guy that's got two bad shoulders, and then you got MJ who was good for a couple games, then all of a sudden kind of faded out of there, and oh, your offensive line is missing the only guy that looked really good last year, and he's not going to the NFL. So what's that say about your offensive line? Oh, on defense, you're losing too much talent, too much production. I'm telling you right now, this is a team that because of these things, because of not being picked, because remember, when we had all the picks, when almost all our entire linebacking core made the first team or second team all-conference team, when we had the offensive preseason offensive player of the year and all that, things just didn't work out in the way that we wanted it to. So, this Rodney Dangerfield, no respect at all bit. Let's roll it. Let's roll it.
And then rounding out this Athlon Sports All-ACC teams for the preseason, fourth team defense, we had another corner in Shaheem Battle, veteran corner that decided to come back for his last year. He's going to be a crucial piece in the back half of this Tony Gibson defense this year. And then fourth team specialist, our new kicker to replace Christopher Dunn. This is Braden Narveson joining us from Western Kentucky. Not necessarily a hot take, but I think you're going to see him finish higher than fourth team when it's all said and done as well. So as we mentioned, we have some hot takes to get off our chest here in the second segment. Please stick around for those. But first, a quick word from our sponsor for today, FanDuel. You need to be making a fast break to FanDuel for these NBA playoffs. If you think LeBron's going to be able to claw back and avenge a 3-0 deficit to the Denver Nuggets, you better put a little action on it. If you think the Miami Heat have officially stomped out the Boston Celtics, better go put some action on it. Because right now, new customers can get up to $1,000 back on a no-sweat first bet. Yes, that's right, $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. There's no better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So, Kenton, this first segment, we were talking about the All-ACC conference selections from Athlon Sports, the first of, I'm sure, many that we will see here as the summer wages on. And we have some hot takes to get off our chest based on the list that we just read to you all. A couple nominations that I think are very warranted. Couple snubs, maybe. Couple guys that are going to finish higher than where they were just ranked in that list. But I have maybe, I don't know if it's the warmest hot take, but it's probably the most prominent hot take. That is, Brennan Armstrong is going to be a top 3 quarterback in the ACC this year. Now, listen, I will give you Drake May. That was painful to say that. I'll give you Drake May. I'll give you Jordan Travis from Florida State. I don't think anyone else is going to beat Brennan Armstrong for that 3 spot. I understand you still have the quarterback from Duke. His name is escaping me at the moment.
Riley Leonard. Riley Leonard. Yeah.
Brennan Armstrong, he's got his offensive coordinator back. We've said it a million times on here. He has a whole lot of shiny new toys to learn how to work with here at NC State. I think it's going to be an offense like we have not seen in quite some time at NC State. I think Armstrong is going to put up superb numbers, despite maybe some hesitations from fans in regards to his turnovers, which I fully understand that. But I think if you get a 2021 version of this Brennan Armstrong, that's a top 3 quarterback in the ACC.
Let me tell you something. Let me break out the peaches and herb for y'all, because I know that Brennan Armstrong, when he walked on this campus, him and Robert and they were singing together, "Reunited and it feels so good," because those two made magic together with, like you talked about, lesser weapons than what is here at NC State. And let's see what can happen and what they can do here at NC State. And again, I agree that if 2021 Brennan Armstrong is rolling through that door, if we can turn back time, right? If we can hop in our time machine and go get 2021 Brennan Armstrong back on this campus, then this team can be something very special. This team can be something.
His ability to be a dual threat quarterback and extend a play and then be able to basically create magic when everything else is broken down around him. That's something we haven't really had much of since, I don't know, the last one, maybe Jacoby Brissett, maybe some Russell Wilson. We haven't had this type of quarterback in quite some time. And I think we have better everything around this quarterback to make it all go. I think, the offensive line is maybe a question mark. I'll give you that. I think our wide receivers are better. I think our running back room can be better with the emergence of a Michael Allen. I think our tight ends that we've talked about on here as a unit, they are better. And I think it's going to be explosive. We're going to throw for a lot of yards. We're going to run for a lot of yards. We're going to have some trickeration going on in this new offense. And, the point I always drive home about Robert and I, the new offensive coordinator, is he gets the absolute most out of what he has. And I think you're going to see that with Brennan Armstrong potentially here in his last year of college football. He's going to be giving it all he's got because this is his trampoline year, per se, into the NFL. And so I think you're going to see it. I think you're going to see a top 3 quarterback in the ACC. My next hot take, Kenton, you said
Hold on. I got to say something here.
Go ahead.
With Demi Sumo leaving, there's one that I have that's related to Brennan Armstrong that I need to slide in right here.
Go ahead.
there will be, if Brennan Armstrong gets to have anywhere near the season that we think he will, there will be at least one, possibly two receivers that make at least ACC, All-ACC second team next year. I believe that Timmons and Anthony Smith are going to be absolutely phenomenal next year. And Porter Rooks and Keon Lassane will be the X factors in terms of what can they show up and add. Because Keon Lassane is the one that he's the most consistent. He's the most consistent day in, day out. We've seen, or at least game in, game out last year, we saw him show up every single time as that third option that wasn't named Carter or Thomas. And so he's going to show up and give us what he's got, but I want to see how he's utilizing Robert Anae's system. And Porter Rooks, I don't want to steal your thunder, so I'm gonna mums the word on Porter Rooks. But those two outside guys, I'm gonna tell you, Robert Anae loves to push that ball down the field, and them two can fly, and they can go get that thing up out the air. That's what you want to see in the system where you got it going vertical. But Grayson, I'm gonna let you go ahead and get to your hot take now.
So you beat me to the punch just a little bit. You said that this one was an extremely spicy take before we jumped on here.
Yeah.
Porter Rooks is going to be an all-ACC receiver this year in 2023, and I'll tell you why. Porter's kind of been waiting in the wings, per se, behind a Thayer Thomas and a little bit of a Keon Lassane last year, as they do play very similar types of wide receiver, most likely in the slot.
Mm-hmm.
I think Porter Rooks is going to be a prime example of Robert Anae getting the most out of his personnel. I think he's going to be able to scheme Porter into open space, not just often, but effectively often. And I think he's going to take off. He was a highly recruited receiver coming into NC State, so we've kind of been waiting here for quite some time to try and get him going. Just scored his first touchdown of his college career last year against UConn, and then, saw him in flashes, but not a whole lot of production after that. Of course, you got a Thayer Thomas on the field, so that's understandable.
You got a Tim Beck calling the plays. He can keep the best of them. He can keep the ball away from the best of them, baby.
That's fair.
When in doubt, run your quarterback power draw. When in doubt, with Tim Beck, that play is coming as sure as the sun rises on the east and sets on the west. It's coming.
But yeah, I mean, we have a lot of talent in the wide receiver room. You mentioned Timmons, you mentioned Anthony Smith. You got, I believe he goes by DJ Collins now, the transfer from Clemson. You have as many tight ends as we have that are all serviceable. I think Porter Rooks has a humongous opportunity to step out of the shadows and be a humongous piece of this offense here in 2023.
Right. I agree. He has the potential to do so. The only reason that I didn't mention him amongst those receivers is number one, I didn't want to steal your thunder there. You know what I mean? I want to pepper him with the jab and let you come in
respect
with the hook there. But even beyond that, the recruiting says that he's supposed to be there, and I hope he is. I hope that he is the guy that all the recruiting websites said he was, and I hope that we can find ways to get him the ball more innovatively. But I've just seen so much out of Anthony Smith and Timmons to where I'm like, all right, wait a minute, because Anthony Smith, the play where his helmet came off and he still, I believe it was he that recovered a fumble or made the tackle to prevent a returner from getting a fumble. I was like, that's something different. Everybody talks about got that dog in them. No. That's something. That's the Kobe Bryant. Can you be a different animal in the same beast? That's one of those moments, because the special teams is dangerous enough. Being a gunner on a punt team is dangerous enough. Doing so without a helmet, oh baby, you're built different. You're built very different. So I hope that I hope that this entire receiver room can have a really great time.
Of course.
But let me hit y'all with two hot takes. One on the offensive side of the ball, one on the defensive side of the ball, in the trenches, because I'm a buffet buster myself. And so I got to get in the trenches. I got to get a little dirty with you. The key to NC State's offense outside of the skill positions is not going to be McMahon or McKay. It's going to be Big Escalade Belton. If he has an effective season, the thing that I find so interesting about Belton is that the worst thing about him was his confidence at times. Like, yes, technique-wise, there were some things that he could clean up. He did have a tendency to lean and all that when he punched sometimes. But that happened when his confidence got bad. For example, the worst game I saw him play was against Clemson. He had a good first half. He was all right in the first half for the most part until I want to say like the last drive or so. But after that, you could tell his confidence was shaken, and he just looked really rough. Every bad game that he played last year, his confidence went down and his technique went away. But when he was trusting his technique and doing what he had to do in terms of, just following the little details, he has the aggressiveness. He has the mentality of a big it. He has that in him. He has that I want to finish blocks in him. He has the feet to be a really, really good pass blocker in him. He has it. But for whatever reason, when that confidence gets down, it gets tough for him. Next one, Davin Vann, who was picked, I believe, what was it, fourth team?
Third team defense.
Third team. He will be not only one of the more impactful defenders or defensive linemen in the conference, he'll be one of the most impactful defenders in the conference. I wholeheartedly believe that. I stand by that. That is one of those things. When you watch Davin play last year, originally teams came into the season double and triple teaming Corey Durden, and that was the goal. Teams were thinking if we negate Durden and they're only rushing 3 or 4, we'll be all right. And later in the season, you could tell more and more that teams start to shift that attention to wherever Davin was a little bit, because he was a menace. He was giving some of these tackles the blues. And the numbers don't necessarily reflect it, but if you watch the games, he was constantly affecting the pocket, constantly making guys move, constantly being there when he's supposed to keep contained. A quarterback they don't have the angle and ability to scramble outside him. So Davin Vann will be not only one of the most impactful defensive linemen in the ACC, he'll be one of the most impactful defenders.
So these are just some early hot takes we have just from this one article from Athlon Sports. We're going to have a whole lot more hot takes, I would bet, going through the summer as we get closer to the fall. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to have a lot more of these community tab polls that we're going to touch on in just a second in the third segment. But yeah, I mean, preseason football, the talks have begun. We're getting closer. I think we're now under 100 days until kickoff in August. I cannot wait. I simply cannot wait. We're going to take a quick break from a word with our sponsors. Okay, so this last third segment here, we're going to be diving into the ACC baseball tournament as Tuesday evening, NC State will begin their showing over in Durham. I keep forgetting this year's tournament is in Durham as it's been in Charlotte the past couple of years. But as we mentioned on Monday's episode, NC State is the 9 seed. They will be taking on the 4 seed in Duke Tuesday night. And we have not seen Duke this year, so this poses a new challenge for the Pac-9. Just a quick synopsis on Duke this year. They have won the series against Clemson. Of course, this is before Clemson turned into current number 7 in the country, Clemson. So perhaps they caught them at a good time, which is earlier in the season. But Duke has also rattled off series wins on the road against Boston College, something that we could not accomplish. They swept Louisville. They've beaten Campbell twice. Campbell is a top 15 team in the country. Duke picked them off twice. And Duke also went on the road and took the series from Virginia, which is, I believe, the number 2 seed in the ACC tournament. So what does all this mean? Duke has a lot of talent. They have a lot of offensive firepower. They have some, their starting pitching is so-so at times. Their relief pitching, though, is, they're pretty stable, pretty sturdy. I'd say probably more so than ours has been. But can NC State win this game? Absolutely. I think we absolutely can. Of course, Avent has not announced any lineups or pitching rotation quite yet. As I mentioned on yesterday's episode, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Dom Fritton start this game on Tuesday evening against Duke. I think that'd be the perfect way to begin your pitching rotation into this tournament. They didn't use Dom a whole lot over this past weekend with Pittsburgh, so I think that makes him very serviceable for Tuesday evening. And I think that sets up the rest of your pitching well. This all hinges on how this first game goes, but looking forward a little bit, I think Dom throwing in this first game gives you the best chance to make a run in this ACC tournament. But Kenton, how are we feeling? We're facing Duke, that are the number 4 seed. What do you think? What's our chances here?
Let me tell you something. If we got Rom-Com Dom on the mound, I'm all right. I trust it. I trust him. This man, he's a freshman, and he's a guy that the lights are never too bright for. He steps up in big moments and says, hey, I do what I does. And that is something I respect. He doesn't let the moment. They often talk about, young guys, they're better because they don't understand the magnitude. Good. Go out there and don't understand the magnitude of nothing. But that ball and that glove, get that ball to that glove, or at least miss the barrels. You know what I mean? If they're going to get some contact, let it be some weak contact. Let it be a little slow roller, or let it be a can of corn into the middle of the outfit. Let it be something cheap. But I'm telling you this much. If we got Dom on the mound, in Rom-Com Dom we trust, I believe Mr. Fritten can get the job done.
Rom-Com Dom is something that Kenton has coined here. So we're going to make this our thing. If you hear this elsewhere, know it came from us. We started this first. We're going to hope this thing sticks, as he has been an incredible player in just his freshman season, always having the flair for the dramatic, which makes his nickname very appropriate, I would say. But
exactly, and that's why he got the nickname. Right. In rom-coms, people do things that are impossible and ridiculous that don't make any sense at all. And let me tell you something, putting in a freshman with bases loaded, no outs, is ridiculous. It makes no sense at all. This is something out of a rom-com where he's some small town little pitcher, and there's a big city lawyer that loves him but doesn't really want to do it, and he goes out there and does that. That's why we call him Rom-Com Dom, folks. That's where the nickname comes from.
How many movies like this have you seen?
Listen, I am a person who loves rom-coms. I will admit that. I have seen The Vow. I've seen The Vow more times than any human should, probably. Channing Tatum was phenomenal in that. Crazy Stupid Love. I've seen it. I've seen it a bunch. You know what I mean? Just sue me. I watched it with some of the guys I played with at NC State one time, and we all enjoyed it. It was a very good movie. More people need to watch rom-coms. I'm just saying. But back to the NC State stuff, I'm telling you this. Dom, keep the rom-com going. You win that lawyer's heart over with a no-hitter on Tuesday, all right? That's what you do.
We're looking forward to a potential flair for the dramatic Tuesday evening in Durham against Duke. That's going to do it here for our Tuesday show. Thank you all for giving us a listen as always. Toss us a like, tell a friend to smash that subscribe button, as we're still seeing the number trickle upwards. So thank you all very much for doing so.
And by the way, before we recorded this show, it was exactly 313 subscribers. For those of you who don't know, I'm from the west side of Detroit, Michigan. Our area code is 313. So I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all very much for doing that, because I love and take a lot of pride in my hometown. So I appreciate it, friends.
My old area code when I lived in Maryland was 443. So let's go for that one next.
Let's get
eventually maybe some 919.
919. Yeah. And maybe we can match Ava's win total at some point in time. Get us up to 996 or 1,000. Who knows? Let's do it.
That's right. So y'all keep listening to us. We're going to keep this thing rolling. As always, thank you so much. And as always, go Pack.
Go Pack.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.